about actual military strategy. Some people still think that, oh, the governments of the West would never do any kind of attack on civilians. Well, excuse me, that's very naive. Since at least Clausewitz, who was a theoretician of war in the early 1800s, this idea of, Clausewitz had this notion of what he called centers of gravity. It's not enough to attack the army of your opponent. In a modern industrial society, it might make at times much more sense to attack, for example, their centers of production, industrial production, or their centers of production of information and propaganda, or whatever. And he called these centers of gravity. And this idea of the COG, or center of gravity, is still very much alive in U.S. Air Force doctrine. And it's recognized that a society will have certain centers of gravity which must be attacked. You see this in the attacks on Iraq, let's say in 1991, where the hydroelectric stations were targeted. They obviously were vital to the health of the society. They were vital to maintaining pure water, for example, the sewage system, water purification system. So when you talk about they only used precision-guided munitions, the question is, yeah, but if they used them to knock out those mechanisms for maintaining health in the society, then obviously they're destroying that health, and they know they are. And they even talk about targeting it at times. A study called Iraq Water Treatment Vulnerabilities was produced for the US military and the UK military. It is dated sometime January 1991, so the sanctions had been going on for some months, since August, against Iraq, but the actual armed attack hadn't quite yet begun. And the study concludes that Iraq's water purification system is in deep trouble because of the sanctions. Iraq, the document says very clearly, will not be able to repair these systems as long as the sanctions that now exist are in place. And it says it's already in deep disrepair and it's going to get worse. And we can expect the following epidemic diseases to break out, and then they list them. We know they received the document, January 1991, so what did they do? Well, they attacked Iraq, and they made water purification and sewage treatment even worse, much worse, in fact, than it had been when the document was written. They destroyed some of these systems directly. In other cases, rendered them inoperative indirectly through knocking out hydroelectric stations. And then they maintained this system in a hopeless state of disrepair for the next 10 years or so. So a reasonable estimate is that 500,000 kids in Iraq that would otherwise be alive died during that period. Not all from diarrheal diseases, but a substantial number. And it was known, and the study had been done, and everything was in place. Now, so what do we do with that? Was there a group of military officers sitting around Washington, let's say, and saying, let's kill 500,000 Iraqi kids? Don't know. Probably not. But they were in full control of the situation, knew what was happening at every stage. So they did it knowingly. And they would certainly, if this had been a domestic crime, be considered to have mens rea, the guilty mind, and certainly be considered responsible. And to top it all off, we have a publication in which a U.S. military officer brags about the fact that they created, I think he calls it, a public health crisis in Iraq through these sorts of methods. So not only did we do it, not only did we know we were doing it, but we celebrate it. We regard it as a legitimate way of fighting war, despite the fact that, of course, it's against the Fourth Geneva Convention. This is what's being done. This is the kind of thing that's being done pretty regularly now through high-tech modern warfare by so-called democracies. And the actual agent of destruction may be a precision-guided missile. It doesn't matter if the point of it is to ruin the health of a population, a civilian population.